welcome to Monday's Mental Mistakes. This week we're looking at the endowment effect. The endowment effect is the tendency to overvalue things that we own. That is, we value our possessions higher than identical things that aren't ours. The endowment effect makes us more likely to consider our possessions as valuable. At the same time, we are unlikely to see others' possessions as having the same value. Here's a simple example. Suppose your boss tells you that you're going to get a pay rise in a few weeks' time. It's not much, maybe only a couple of dollars an hour. However, a week later, your boss comes back to you and tells you that she was actually wrong, and you aren't going to get the pay rise after all. How do you feel about that? Now, consider a slightly different scenario. Suppose instead, your boss tells you that over the past few weeks, it initially looked like you were going to get a pay rise, but in the end, it didn't actually happen. How would you feel about that scenario? If you're like most of us, you would be more upset in the first scenario. That is, after having a week of thinking that you were going to get the pay rise. If you would be less upset at having been told about a missed opportunity rather than having a promised pay rise taken away, then congratulations. You suffer from the endowment effect like the rest of us. The reason that this is an example of the endowment effect is that when we are expecting something, we often treat it as if we already have it. In that sense, when the pay rise is rescinded, it feels as if you've had something taken away. This loss is valued more highly than the identical missed opportunity in the second scenario, simply because it is felt as a loss of a possession rather than a missed chance. That's the endowment effect. The principal way to counter the endowment effect is to remind ourselves of the actual value of the things that are lost or gained. That is, to remind ourselves of the true value of the possession rather than our subjective valuation. One way to do this is to consider the item as if it was someone else's. Instead of asking yourself, how much is this worth to me? Ask yourself, how much would I be prepared to pay for this? What you would be prepared to pay is likely to be a more accurate reflection of its true value. Another approach is to try and separate the emotional response that we have to losing something from the actual value of the lost possession. We may have a strong emotional response to being denied something that we're expecting, or having something taken away from us, that is disproportionate to the objective value of the thing lost. For example, you may well get upset if your gift card is not accepted, even if the value of the gift card is only $10. Acknowledging that the intensity of the emotional response is not a good guide to the value of the loss helps us to realistically evaluate the situation. Finally, remind yourself that expected gains are not possessions. This is the proverb of not counting your chickens before they're hatched. A promised item is not the same as an actual possession, and a loss of one is not the same as the loss of another. In conclusion, the endowment effect is the tendency to overvalue things that we own compared to identical things that aren't ours. Until next week, may your mental mistakes be minor.